Hello and welcome to Ejder's Live Mert to the Future. And today I have a very special guest. Mohammed Sajid will be with us today. I think you know him from the community, Bradford user group, and other community activities. But this is my classical question. And can you please introduce yourself?
That's harder than it is. So, like Mert said, my name is Mohammed Sajid. I am one of the co-founders of Bradford Cloud User Group. We've been up and running for about 2 years now. Starting in the pandemic, me, Shabazz Dar, I am IT Geek, and IT Sport blog, Imran Rashid. Um, I work for a net company. I am a senior infrastructure architect at net company. I work with cloud and hybrid. A lot of government customers. I worked with the private sector, and I've been working in IT for about 20 years now. I
Okay,
think that
great. We've done some webcasts together with the Bradford Cloud user group and one by one.
yes. So we've had you on
Yeah.
there. We've had we do with the Bradford Cloud User Group. We do a monthly webcast. We used to do two, a recorded session and a live session, but mainly we do live sessions at the moment, different formats. We've had people on there, Microsoft MVPs. Mert's been on there. Shabazz is doing an introduction. People like Gregor, April Edwards. We do anything from short 20-minute sessions to hour-long sessions. Depends what you want to show, and we do anything. We've had two people from AWS come on there. I think we should get some more AWS people on there, but mostly it's been Azure, whichever you pronounce it, and a lot of Azure tech.
Okay, great. So today we are going to talk about Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and I think you will some great demo today, and we'll talk about the cloud capabilities of Microsoft Defender. Right?
Yes, so it's going to mostly be a demo. There's a couple of slides, and we'll look at getting started with Microsoft Defender, where it fits in with all the Defender suite and use cases.
Okay, then shall we start?
We can. Shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to share a slide deck. There's only a couple of slides in this slide deck. Bear with me a minute. So yes, Defender for Cloud. Skip that slide. Guys, just switch display settings around. That's better. So again, that's why Twitter handle, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. What is Defender for Cloud? So Defender for Cloud essentially has two broad pillars: cloud workload protection platform, and it provides that by utilizing or leveraging other Defender capabilities like Defender or the Defender products like Defender for Endpoint, Defender for SQL, and that telemetry is then sent into Defender for Cloud, and it generates alerts for you. And the other thing that it does is cloud security posture management. And it does, as it says here in this slide deck, which is taken directly from Microsoft's own documents, Microsoft documents for Defender for Cloud, which is continually assesses your environment, provides you with a secure score. I'll probably say that wrong many times, but bear with me. And vulnerability assessment. So it looks at your environment, it looks at and it compares that to a benchmark, and then gives you feedback to say this is where you can improve your secure score by implementing recommendations. And we'll have a look at those recommendations. If you've got Defender for Endpoint, Defender for SQL, you will get those recommendations as well. There's a free offering and there's a paid for offering, and they provide different capability. So at one end, you've got Defender product suite that Microsoft provides for end capability like Defender for Endpoint, Defender for SQL, Defender for storage. And you've got Defender for Cloud, which gathers all that telemetry and then gives you feedback to say recommendations on how you can improve your security posture. And it takes telemetry both from the assets you deploy within your cloud platform, not just Azure, but other cloud platforms like GCP, like AWS, and on-premises environments, and leveraging Azure Arc. And it generates alerts for you. Like I mentioned, there is a free tier, and it's enabled by default. You can't turn it off, not really. And you get the secure score, and you get security posture management, security posture assessment of the assets you deploy within your Azure environment and other clouds if you're on board with the clouds or on-premises environment, and recommendations on how you can fix that. There is two paid for plans, Defender for Server Plan 1 in which you get, if I just zoom in a little bit, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, so the licensing including in Plan 1, Microsoft Threat and Vulnerability Management, and Automatic Agent Onboarding and Alerting of Data. We'll take a look at these. There's a cost for this of $5 per server per month. And the other plan, Plan 2, which is recommended, is $15 per month. It onboards, it has all the capabilities of Plan 1, but has just-in-time VM access for management, post-network layer threat detection, adaptive application controls, file integrity, etc., etc. So I just wanted to cover this off at the beginning, but we'll spend most of the time looking at the portal and looking at its capabilities. So if I just end the slideshow and we take a look at the portal itself. So if you're new to Azure, if you want to get to here, you type in portal.azure.com, provide username and password MFA if MFA is enabled, and you'll end up at your home screen. If you've never looked at Microsoft Defender for Cloud, if you type in Defender, it's there, it's Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You select it, it will take you to the Defender for Cloud portal. On the home screen, you have the overview page, and the overview page will give you certain information. Now, as you can see here, you've got security posture blade, you've got regulatory compliance blade, you've got workload protection blade, inventory blade. If you've got a WAF deployed, for example, you'll see a blade here for Azure firewalls. If you've got DLP configured through PureView, you'll see that here as well. So it takes telemetry from different elements that you deploy within your environment. At the top here, you've got Azure subscriptions, and I've got just a single subscription deployed here. But if you have multiple subscriptions, you can select subscriptions here and then switch your subscriptions. If you onboarded other cloud platforms, like I have here, you have AWS account, you have a GCP account, or multiple AWS accounts. It shows you at a glance your assessed resources and active recommendations and security alerts. Also, it's a single pane of glass to look at your environment. So here it's telling you that there's 58 unassigned security recommendations. The overall secure score for Azure AWS is only 19%. The higher the secure score, the better protected your environment is, and you get a list of recommendations on how you can improve your secure score. You also have Azure that sits at 42% on the score, and AWS that sits at 11%. If you select any of these, it'll give you more information and a greater breakdown. So total onboarded to environments, 136 out of 217, unhealthy resources, recommendations. You can filter this by selecting if you want to look at AWS only, or if you want to look at Azure only, you can filter here. You can also filter here. We'll come back and look at some of the recommendations where it says view recommendations. Again,
I have a question before we continue. So using cross-cloud is a great feature, but are there any limitations while I am using in other vendors like AWS or Google Cloud? Is it the same features?
No. So we'll have a look at that, Mike, in a minute. If you hold that question, I'll answer that question in a minute, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll answer the question now, I'll jump ahead. So if you look at environment settings where you configure the environment when you're getting started, when you look at, not there, sorry. If you expand this and you look at your subscription, what you have onboarded is your security posture management, and that's free. You have servers and endpoint management. You have apps, databases, storage, containers, key vault, etc. So for Azure, you get all of this capability, but for AWS, you have limited capability at this moment in 3 out of 4 services. So if you look here, it shows 3 out of 4 plans available. So if you look, you have cloud storage posture management. So it'll do an assessment of your environment in AWS, and that's again free. It does containers, again, which is free, but then it does servers and databases. So over time, the hope is that it will expand its capability to onboard some of the other capabilities within your AWS environment and your GCP environment. But right now, for AWS, this is what you get.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, chuck in any questions. I'll try to answer them if I can. So, overview, you get regulatory compliance, you get workload, you get inventory. So if you look at the inventory, we look at some of these blades in depth in a moment. This is an inventory of your entire environment. But when you start with this, you start here, you won't have AWS onboarded. You have, like I said, you have posture management of your environment, and that telemetry is for free. So what you've deployed in your environment and the scale score, you will get this simply by logging into this blade, and show this telemetry for you. To get started, go to getting started, and you have upgrade getting started and install agents. So the free plan is free. If you want a paid for plan, and it provides costings over here, estimated of, server $15 a month, app services $15 per instance per month. If you scroll down a bit, you've got containers $7 per VM core per month, vaults 10k transactions. So if you select upgrade, it'll give you 30 days free for plan 2, which is what I'm running in this particular demo. Then after that, it's a paid for service depending on what services you're using and what services you enable. We'll take a look at that when we look at environment settings. It uses a log analytics workspace for some of the telemetry and has a default log analytics workspace. So if you want to create your own log analytics workspace, you can do that and onboard that here. So if you look at protect multi-cloud environments, it will show you how to onboard that. And we'll take a look at a demo for AWS. If you look at add non-Azure services, so it says use log analytics agents to extend Microsoft Defender for cloud capabilities. You would really want to use a defined log analytics workspace and not use the default one. So you can create a log analytics workspace, and you would make a configuration change within your environment setting as to where that works. So once you got started, once you upgraded, you decided you want to install your agent. So again, you can install all the required agents manually, the log analytics agent manually, for example, or for any services that are deployed within your subscription that you're using here, it will install the agents for free if you select install agents. So when you deploy a service, install the agents automatically for you. So once you've decided which way you want to go, you've planned it out, you've got upgraded, you've selected the plan you want to use, you've created your log analytics workspace, you come down to environment settings. In environment settings, you have the subscription that you're working with. And here you can add environments, add Amazon Web Services, add Google Cloud. I want to take a better look at the web services and how you onboard that. So any subscriptions that you have within the tenancy will be shown here. We have a single subscription. If you select subscription here, it shows you the plan. So you have free, which is cloud security posture management, the secure score and the recommendations, and you get that for free and it's enabled by default. Then here you can select what plan you want to use. So you have change plan, you have plan 2, which is recommended, and you get 30 days free trial of this. And you have plan 1, which gives you limited capability. You can enable or disable any of these services if you don't want to use them or if you don't want to pay for any of them. They enable at this moment in time because I've got free plan for 30 days. And it'll gather all the telemetry on all these for you. And you can see here there's a cost associated with using any of these particular services. Auto provisioning. So if you want to install any of your agents automatically, auto provision extensions like your log analytics agent. Azure Monitor agent is in preview at this moment in time. So here, if you want to use the log analytics agent and you want the telemetry to go to the data to go to your log analytics workspace that you've configured, if you select edit configuration, scroll down a bit here, you can select the log analytics workspace that you want to use. This is grayed out now, but you get the option to select all events or sample events that you want. Some events, not all the events. I just select all events for this and you click apply. As you can see here, Azure Monitor agent is still in preview at this moment in time. So we're using the log analytics agent, which is default at this stage. Excuse me. Vulnerability assessment for machines. Guest configuration again is in preview. Microsoft Defender for containers. I've left this as default as part of this demo. You have email notification. So if you want to email recipients, prevent from cloud alerts, you can define email notifications here. And notification types, notify about alerts with the following severity, example, high, medium, low. If you wanted to, you have integration with other cloud products like Defender for Endpoint, Defender for SQL. So allow Microsoft Defender for Cloud apps to access my data. This again is default settings. I've not changed anything. You can disable any of these settings if you want to. Workflow automation is allowing you to automate responses to some of the alerts that you get in here, both security alerts and security posture alerts. And you can give it a name, security alert type, for example, recommendation, regulatory compliance standards. And this is done by creating and defining a logic app for a response to a defined alert. So, and continuous export allows you to send this data externally to an event hub or log analytics workspace. At the moment, some of the telemetry is being sent to a log analytics workspace. I don't know if we'll show up because I've set this up quite recently, so we shall see. It takes a while for that to together.
Saj, can you please able to zoom in?
Yeah, bear with me. Sorry about that, guys. So if you look here,
Yes.
you have...
Yes, that's fine. And I'll make it a full screen for better reading. Okay.
So it's set to full screen on my side. Is it still smaller? You want to zoom in again?
No, that's perfect right now.
Okay. So you have the capability. So again, at the event hub, you can enable it to send the telemetry to an event hub. You can define export frequency. You can also configure this to send it to SIEM integration. So Microsoft SIEM or third-party SIEM tools. You can also send this telemetry to Log Analytics Workspace. Like I said, we'll have a look to see if any of this data has been captured. I've set this up quite recently, so I don't know if any of the telemetry will be there. It takes a while to get that information. But I'm sending the data to the Log Analytics Workspace that I defined. And security policies, that is a default policy which applies at this moment in time. You can create your own. If you see here, it's using Azure Security Benchmark, which is what it uses out of the box to assess your environment again. So when you look at security posture, when you look at posture assessment of your environment, it uses Azure Security Benchmark. It has other recommendations for security. It looks at, for example, ISO 27000, which is shown as deprecated, security standards, PCI, SOC TSP. You can add more standards. So for example, the ISO 27000 here is deprecated, so you can add the most recent ISO standard. So if you went to add standards, you've got ISO 27001, 2013. You can just click on add and add that standard, and it'll assess your environment against the new standard that you've defined in here. So once you've done your getting started, you've configured your environment setting, you're essentially good to go. It takes a while for the telemetry to come through on some of the configurations, especially if you're on board a different cloud vendor like AWS or GCP or on-premises environments. But once you've got that, you're essentially good to go. So if you look at posture assessment of your environment, you have recommendations. So again, if you look at the overview page, some of this will give you an overview of what your environment looks like, a snapshot. But for greater investigation of what actually some of this means, it matches what's down the left-hand side here. So you've got workload protection, regulatory compliance, and you can break this down and have a look at what it's actually showing you. So if you look at recommendations from a security posture point of view, you have recommendations, view recommendations for Azure, view recommendations for AWS. So if you look at the recommendations blade, it will show you across the top, you have download CSV, so you can download all your recommendations as a report. It shows you your secure score. This is the combined score, both, your combined score is 18%. You can have a look at Azure or AWS, and the recommendations here will also change based on what you filter here. You can also filter here your environments, and you have severity, none. You can look at filter for high, medium, low if that's what you want to have a look at. And Microsoft has this really nice color coordination. So if you've not looked at this or not worked with Microsoft before, so red means unhealthy, you need to take some action. Green is healthy and everything looks good. Gray at the end, if you can see it here, if I zoom in a little bit, means not applicable or no action needs to be taken. And that's also reflected in the insights, in the unhealthy resources over here to the right of the screen. So if you look here, it's telling you, if you look at for both Azure and AWS, it gives you recommendations, and it says if you enable MFA, it will increase your secure score by 10 points. So if you look at just AWS, for example, so you can enable MFA, and it gives you MFA should be enabled on accounts with security permissions on the subscription. So if you look at this, it'll give you the account, which is a service account. It'll give you remediation steps. So it tells you step by step how to fix the action. If you select it here, you have the options to trigger logic app. If you have a logic app defined, you can exempt this. So not all the recommendations within the recommendations plane is something that you want to enable within your environment. Some of them, for example, might be based on the benchmark, but if you enable it, it might adversely affect your environment. It might break something, it might stop something from working. So you need to assess the recommendations for the customer, the environment that you're working in. You have the capability to assign this to an owner. So if you wanted somebody to action this, you can define the owner here. You can have a due date, apply grace period if you want. And by default, it will notify owners weekly and overdue tasks. If you look at a different one, so if you look at remediate vulnerabilities, so it's telling you here that machine should have vulnerability assessment solution installed. If you look to the right here, this sign here, it shows you that there's a fix available when you look at this recommendation. So you have the capability to fix this within Microsoft Defender for Cloud Blade right here. So if you look at this, it's telling you that it needs to install, the machine doesn't have Microsoft Threat Vulnerabilities or Defender for Endpoint, for example, isn't installed on these 4 machines. So you can select one of them or all of them. And you can select Fix here, and it will actually take you to the fix screen. It says Threat Vulnerability Management for Microsoft Defender for Endpoint included within your license should be installed. You can proceed to install it, and it will go ahead and install it for you. Fix one resource, and go ahead and do that. I think I've already installed this. What happens is it gives you a refreshing tool as to when it assesses it again. So if you look here, it defines a 24-hour period. Because I've installed this earlier, it will assess it again in 24 hours. And if that's been mitigated, it will then drop off the list. But for the other 3, if we select that one, for example, we go to fix this one, it should allow us to go ahead and install this, assuming the machine is turned on. You can do it in the background. You have the ability to assign it to an owner. You have the ability to exempt it if this is something you didn't want to do because doing this would stop an application from working or break something in your environment. You can exempt this. So if you select exempt, it gives you the ability to exempt this from the secure score. You can say that resource, for example, remediation was successful, mitigated, resolved through a third-party service, for example, or we're going to accept the risks that is defined here and define, putting a reason why you're accepting the risk. It will break something in the environment. We don't want to do this at this moment in time. It'll be mitigated by us deploying another resource in 3 months, 6 months, a week's time, and create and exempt that for you. Within your Defender for Cloud, it acknowledges that some action has been taken, and it's been exempt, and there's a reason why this has been exempt. And it's reflected in the secure score. It might not increase your secure score, but it doesn't negatively impact it because it's been assessed. So if you look at AWS, because we've onboarded AWS, it will give recommendations for AWS. So encrypt data in transit. If you look at this one, it gives you S3 buckets should have server-side encryption enabled. If you select this, again, these buckets don't have server-side encryption enabled, and you can fix this directly from me, even though this is an AWS environment, and it's using AWS best practices and AWS recommendations to tell you that this is the action that you should take to fix this. It gives you a fix right here. So you can trigger a logic app to fix this, even though it's AWS. You can fix this by accessing this and downloading the remediation logic. So if we select that, it gives you the ability to do that. So essentially that is, you would need to take that file and run it within AWS to fix this. You can't fix it directly from here. My bad. So again, you have the ability to have a combined score, which is 18%, or individually look at both your AWS environment and Azure environment or GCP environments individually, look at recommendations, fix them, assign them to somebody to fix, exempt them, all from the single pane. You have security alerts. So if you've installed Defender for Endpoint, or Defender for SQL, Defender for storage, and getting that telemetry in here, it will show you the security alerts in here and the data about the security alerts. Now, like I said, this is a new tenant for me. I don't have any security alerts. You have the capability at the top here, for example, to generate sample alerts, and it gives you sample alerts that you can look at and the action that you can undertake. If this was a real alert, what you can do with it. At the top here, you have suppressed any of these rules. You have sample alerts, which we generated. We'll take a look at some of the alerts in a second. And you have download this as a CSV report. So you can, again, download this as a CSV. So if you look at some of the sample alerts, potential SQL brute force attack, it gives you a quick synopsis here. You can have the ability to have a look at it in full detail. So it gives you a description of this alert. Someone is attempting to brute force credentials to a SQL server. It gives you additional information to the right of this and take action. You can mitigate the threat, go to the firewall settings in order to lock this down. It gives you how you can mitigate this particular threat. Again, if you look at another one, storage, for example, it gives you the severity, active state, active date, for example, the data about the security alert, and what action can be taken. Now, the advantage or the beauty of having both your security alerts and your posture management in the same place, if a security alert is generated because of misconfiguration in your environment, you can look at that right here without leaving Defender for Cloud. So it'll show you on the recommendations or on the inventory. So if this was a server, for example, and it will give you the server name that's causing the issue. If you looked in inventory, it gives you a breakdown of your inventory of everything that you have across everything that you've onboarded, both AWS and GCP and Azure. So if you scroll down here, you see asset from AWS S3 bucket, security groups, STS accounts in the region, and Azure Virtual Machine. So if your security alert was generated because of misconfiguration of something that you deployed, you can see that right here, and you can select that particular asset and give you information about that asset. So again, here you have the ability to add non-Azure servers. We'll have a look at that. That's onboarding on-premises environments. You have subscription and the ability to filter across the top here. Again, if you select something that's been in the inventory list here, like one of the servers, UK South, it will give you what the issue is. Monitoring agent not installed. You have active alerts, and it gives you the issue with this: alerts, installed applications, alerts if you see any, and recommendations. And you see this for everything that's in your environment. The other thing that you have is workbooks. Again, what workbooks will do is, if you wanted to have a look at, you have initial telemetry that comes to your environment, your secure score is at 20%. You get list of recommendations for security alerts and recommendations. You go away and you implement this over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months. And you want to have a look at, over time, how your secure score or your security posture is increasing or decreasing if you're not doing anything and it's getting worse. So if you look at workbooks, it gives you telemetry over time, secure score over time, compliance over time, active alerts over time. I don't have any data, unfortunately, at this moment in time. This is relatively new. I've set this up. So no data at this moment in time. Community, there's a big community around Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You can have a look at blog posts, videos, learnings on this. The other thing I found really interesting was, if you look at, is it in diagnose? No, it's yes. So diagnose and solve problems. Here, Microsoft provides you a lot of information about diagnosing and troubleshooting for enhanced security features, onboarding settings, pricing, for example, security alerts. The other thing, it's a great learning tool I found. So if you look at onboarding, for example, and you look at onboarding connectors for AWS GCP, it will show you step by step how to troubleshoot this. But if you scroll further down here, it gives you videos on how to actually do this. So step-by-step video on how to set up new AWS connectors, step-by-step GCP Defender for Cloud integration. So even though this is diagnose and solve problems. This is how it's labeled up in Microsoft. I found it as a good learning tool as well. It shows you videos on how to actually import some of this stuff. So you have also security posture, regulatory compliance, and workload protection. Your security posture again is based on, in this case, overall is 19% of the score here, and you can look at this again by AWS, GCP, if you had GCP enabled, or Azure, and again it shows you the recommendations page. Again, score over time will work using the workbooks, but we don't have any configured at this moment. I'm not running telemetry to be able to show that. Governance reports again is in preview, would require telemetry over time. Regulatory compliance. So if you look here, it shows you that for regulatory compliance, it's using Azure Security Benchmark version 3. For AWS, it uses CIS 1.2.0, AWS Foundation Best Practices, and PCI DSS 3.2.1. So if you look down this list at any of them, it shows you that some are green and some are in the red. So for some of these, when they are in the red, if you look at it, it'll show you that you are avoiding standing access for permission. So you're green in that, but you have red. So you need to take action to mitigate some of the issues that you have here. There should be more than one owner assigned to your subscription. I have a single owner assigned to the subscription, which is me. It's a test environment, but it'll show you step by step how to mitigate this. If you select it, it'll give you additional information on the unhealthy or affected resource and remediation steps and how to do that. This is a great resource not only for security alerts and for posture of your environment, but it does regulatory compliance for your environment as well. It does the same for AWS and GCP. So if you look at some of the GCP environment, I have no issues with that because I've set that up just as a default. Bear with me, guys, it's running a bit slow. So if you look here, CIS, I've got lots of issues in this environment because, like I said, I've just installed it out of the box. So avoid the use of root account which I'm not using. Ensure multi-factor authentication is enabled on IAM users. So I'll have users in here that MFA isn't enabled on. So if you select that, it will tell you affected resource. My test Defender for Cloud account that I'm using as part of the connector for this will get deleted after the demo. Does not have MFA enabled. So if you look here, interestingly, it also defines the account that you're using and the connector name that you create. So if you look at onboarding other environments, so we have in this environment both AWS and Azure being shown here. So you can onboard GCP, which I haven't done in this demo. We can also onboard on-premises environments. And there's two ways you can onboard on-premises environments. So if you use Azure Arc, you can go to Azure Arc for servers, add server, generate script for single server, multiple servers. So if you select the generate script, it gives you details on how to onboard your on-premises environment. Once you've onboarded your on-premises environment for posture assessment, you will get the telemetry within Defender for Cloud. The telemetry will be shown in here. If you've deployed any of the agents like Defender for Endpoint, that telemetry will be shown as in the security. And if there's any alerts with that, you'll get security alerts. The other thing you could do, for example, is in your log analytics workspace. Excuse me. So if you looked at under settings and agent management, log analytics agents instructions. So if you download the agent and install the agent on your on-premises servers, 64-bit, 32-bit, that telemetry will also be fed into your log analytics workspace that you associate with your Defender for Cloud. And then it will be assessed in here. So you get recommendations and alerts in here for your environment that you've onboarded into your log analytics workspace. For onboarding other clouds like AWS and GCP is quite easy. You go to add environment and you go to Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud and follow the step-by-step instructions. So because I've onboarded AWS, we'll have a look at AWS. So if you look at onboarding AWS, essentially you give the connector a name, my Defender for Cloud connector. You Select subscription, you select the resource group. Let's pick the one I've created earlier. You put it in a region, you give it an account ID. So let me see if I'm still logged in. StreamYard. Everything, guys, if you want to log into AWS, I've got to reboot the server. So once you logged into AWS, username and password MFA, if you go to I am, the user, for example, apologies, it's running a bit slow today. It gives you account ID here. So you need this account ID from the user that you want to use or the management user that you want to use. You define that account ID in here. So if we copied this, pasted it in there, and exclude action. So you can define an exclusion see what you want. So if you went next here, and you can select the plan that you want to use, we leave it as default. And then when you select next here, it gives you the option to download the cloud formation template. Now you need to download this and complete these steps before clicking next to generate and to complete. So select download, let it download. And this is a, as you see here, cloud formation template. So in your AWS environment, if you find cloud formation, and you select this, you'll have the ability to select that download. So this is the demo one I'm using at this moment in time. If you just look at the actions, so you select create stack with standard, but we're going to import the thing. So we have a template that's ready. We're going to upload a template. We're going to choose a template that we've downloaded from the Azure environment. Click next. Again, name the stack, like demo Defender for Cloud. Again, you have multiple parameters that you can define here, or you could just leave them all as default. So if you leave them all as default, just select next. You have rollback actions, so rollback stack resources, preserve, successful provision resources. You have stack policies, rollback configuration, notification options. But again, you could leave most of these as default if you wanted to. Select next, review the environment, and accept. I don't know why the cloud formation might create an IAM resource with custom names, and yeah, you get this alert. The cloud formation has detected changes from the template uploaded. To be honest, I'm not sure why you're getting this alert, because you haven't changed anything from the template that you've uploaded. The template was downloaded from Azure, you uploaded it in here, nothing's really changed, apart from some options might have selected, but we left it as default, and select create stack. Once this has been created, wait till your stack is status is complete. So in here, you can see stack information, status is complete. It shows you events, resources, outputs, parameters. If you want to have a look at what the stack is doing, stack completed a couple of days ago on the 12th at 14:24. Once this has been completed, you've got a green light in here. Go back to your Azure environment, stack set name, stick name in here, and then review and generate, and then complete. And once it's completed, you have to wait 24 hours. So for me, it took a bit longer than 24 hours. After 24 hours, I started getting telemetry. So in here, you could see the number of resources that I had identified, 201 resources. You have plans that are enabled or disabled. So again, for AWS, you have servers, databases, containers that you can assess, and your cloud security posture management, which is free. Containers also, interestingly, in AWS, it's free at this moment in time. But the other two are paid for services, $15 a month per server for the server plans, and $15 for databases, SQL servers, EC2, relational databases within AWS. You can enable or disable these as you want, or change the settings here. Once you've got your telemetry here, it will show you, and it took a bit longer for me to get the score to show here as 11%. So be a little patient with it. Can take 24 hours. In my case, it took a little bit longer, 28, 29 hours, I think. For us, I got a score here. And once you onboarded that, you get recommendations, you get security alerts, you get an inventory of your AWS environment, of your GCP environment, recommendations, errors, faults, all within a single pane of glass. So Defender for Cloud will give you security alerts and recommendations and an inventory of your cloud environments, your multi-cloud environment on premises and Azure and GCP. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a single pane of glass. This again is not a SIEM tool, which is the other end of the spectrum when it comes to Microsoft security. So it doesn't do threat hunting, which you need to do SIEM for. And you can take the telemetry that you have here and feed that into a SIEM tool. And there's a cost for that. So that data ingestion into SIEM, there's a cost for that. There's also a cost for data ingestion into your log analytics workspace. If I remember correctly, I think it shows you in your plans. If you look at change plans, I think it shows you here. So log analytics, 500 meg free data ingestion. After that, there's a cost for that. And there's a cost for sending this data into a SIEM tool, whether it's Sentinel or whether it's a third-party SIEM tool. But if you have a SOC that has to look at security alerts, and like I said, the security alerts are generated because of misconfigurations within your environment in a single pane of glass in your Defender for Cloud. You have your posture of your environment as being assessed, recommendations based on misconfigurations, which you can have a look at a single pane of glass, and also security alerts in a single pane of glass within Defender for Cloud. Personally, I think that's pretty cool. And I really like this product. The more I learn about it, the more I like it.
Okay, great. I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
First one is there is a part that you can exit the risk and continue. I can't remember which part of this, but there is an you are looking for the results for your security, and you bypass one of them with the exit risk. I think it's the exam part.
Was it in security alerts?
Maybe can you open that page? I wonder when you exit risk and bypass a security risk, can you undo it? Or you can do it when and it's done?
So if you create an exemption, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can come back and reassess that, I believe. I'll check that out, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But yes, I think you can. If you create an exemption, you can then come back and reassess that if you wanted to and take action against that.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that and I'll check on that.
Okay, thank you. And other question is, there's a remediation steps. You showed a couple of examples, but I see all of them are manual steps. Are there any automated steps?
So yes, if you look at recommendations in here, so you have the ability. So let's pick one, for example. So if you look at remediate security configurations, management, remediate vulnerabilities. So if you look at remediate vulnerabilities and you look at vulnerability assessment here, you can select a server. So it says affected these 4 servers, and your monitoring agent isn't installed, or your threat assessment vulnerability assessment solution isn't installed. You can essentially select one or select all of them and select fix, and it will fix that for you. So you can go proceed and carry on, just hit 4, and it'll go and install the agent for you. You don't need to go to the servers, install the agent, for example. You can just proceed with that. The other thing that you can do is, if you look here, it says trigger a logic app. So you can create. So if you come out here and you look at workflow automation, in here you can add a workflow automation, and you can say, so name install agent on servers. Okay, white spaces, that's interesting. Let me do that. No. There we go. So stick a description in here, select your subscription, select the resource group, And then you can configure security alert contains or recommendation here. So looking at recommendation, all recommendations are selected, or API gateway end protection should be installed on machine. So that's one that you want. Yeah. And then recommended state, all states are selected, and then you would create a logic app to take action to say when this alert is generated, install that. It would run this logic app and install that agent on all the servers. So once you've created that, it will do that for you automatically.
Okay. So my last question is about learning stuff. So you showed me great resources on the page, some videos and step-by-step menus. But are there any resources that you can recommend other than MS Learn about
Yes.
Microsoft Defender?
So I'm glad you. So if I put these, I'll put the links into the chat in a second. So this one is a great resource. So Defender for Cloud has actually GitHub repo. If you're looking here, that's it. So here, so if you go for Defender for Cloud, I'll put the links in the chat. So it gives you welcome to Defender for Cloud, and it shows you beginner, intermediate, advanced, and sets up a lab, and it takes you step-by-step instructions on how to create the lab. And so if you look at preparing the environment, if you look at security policies, for example, level 200 objective, it defines the objective. It takes you step by step through looking at the various exercises that you want to do, network security groups. It's really, really good, really detailed. And it covers regulatory compliance, improving your security posture. And this is free, and this is in GitHub. So if you take that, if I can find chat, give me a second. I've lost you. So let's stick that in. Should I put in comments? I'll put it in private chat. So then you can upload. So that's that link, Mert.
Okay, also, I'll paste to the Twitch chat.
Yeah, and then you have so this is an interactive guide for Defender for Cloud. Again, let's see if it works. So just play it, and it'll run through the video for you. Again, this is really, really useful.
In this interactive guide, you'll learn how to protect your multi-cloud environment.
So it talks through, it's quite long, it's about 11 minutes, and it shows you, it's an interactive guide for Microsoft Security, and it takes you through step by step.
In this interactive guide, the security dashboard is your entry point in Microsoft Defender for Cloud.
So I really like this, from a getting started point of view. So that's that. Also, you have the documentation. Microsoft is really good with all the documentation. No, that's the wrong place. Again, but this page is really, really useful. I'll stick this in the chat as well. So it gives you Microsoft Defender for Cloud documentation, about the Defender for Cloud, stay current. But down the left-hand side here, you've got quick starts, you've got tutorials, you've got concepts, and more importantly, how-to guides, cloud security posture, security recommendations, built-in security protection. So all of these I would recommend. Let's put that in the chat for you as well.
Okay.
No, I hope that was useful.
Yeah, very useful. And I will have a look at the links you sent, and I'll pass them to the TV chat. And thank you very much for this great presentation.
No, well, thank you.
hope to see you in another episode with different topics.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great.
I need more practice public speaking, so why not?
No, you are perfect. You don't need any practice.
But when are you coming to the UK?
And as soon as possible.
Yeah, let me know when you come. We need to catch up.
Okay.
No problem.
Sure. So, any final words before we close?
No. Thank you for listening. I hope it was useful, and thank you for having me.
You are welcome, and thank you very much.
No problem.
Cheers.
Thank you. See everyone.